Okay, our goal is to finish the ninth perek of Korban Pesach, which theoretically is small, but I think the first topic is gonna might take up a bit more of our time than we thought. And I would like to end at 2:15 today, if possible, because I have a lot more stuff to do before I go to the airport. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we read this last time, but we got to read it again just to rev up into it. We have here in perek tes halacha zayin in Korban Pesach. Ma'achil kazayis min Pesach bein mi Pesach rishon bein mi Pesach sheni li meshumad la avodah zarah o legir toshav o sachir. So one who feeds a kazayis of the Pesach, whether the Pesach rishon or the Pesach sheni, to an apostate to avodah zarah. That's a literal translation of meshumad la avodah zarah, or to a ger toshav, to someone who formally accepted the Sheva ben Sus B'nai Noach in front of Sanhedrin during a time when the Yovel is noheg, o sachir, or to a non-Jew who is working for a Jew in exchange for money. Ze over below sase. That person violates a lo sase. The inoloke, he doesn't get malchus. Aval makin also malchus mardus, but he gets malchus mardus, which, just to repeat last time, because this was new to me, okay, Isaac, you weren't here last time. So how do you usually see malchus mardus being translated? Or how do you translate it in your head?
Lashes for rebelliousness.
Yeah, that's how I've seen it also. Okay, so that is on the assumption that mardus comes from marad, which means rebelliousness. But then Rav Makbili says that it's possible that this is from resh dalet yud in Aramaic, which is equal to the Hebrew yud samech resh, which means disciplinary. And that to me makes a lot more sense. Disciplinary strikes for rebelling against, for violating rabbinic authority. Rebelliousness always didn't make sense, because you can get malchus mardus even if you're not doing it like b'toras rebellion, you know. Yeah, so I don't know, I like that better. I mean, I don't think the other one's problematic, but yeah. Okay,
I have a different like minor question.
Sure.
When does he, like, do you know any difference between when the Rambam says hare zeh over below sase as opposed to over below sase?
No, I know he probably flourishes with his hands when he says hare, but I don't know halachic meaning. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, uben nechar hamur b'Torah, and a son of a foreign, literally means son of a foreign being, right? That is stated in the Torah. Zeh ha'oved el nechar. That's one who worships a foreign god, a strange god. Ve'in ma'achilin mimeno legoy. We don't feed it to a goy. Afilu ger toshav osachir, even to a ger toshav or osachir. Shnemar, as it says, toshav osachir lo yochabo. A toshav or osachir, you may not eat from it. We had this question last time, which is, he already said, like, it would have made sense if this first halacha was just about, the first half was just about the meshumad, and he didn't mention ger toshav or sachir, and then in the second half he mentioned them. It's like he repeats himself, that really the Isra is to any goy, and the only reason the pasuk says ger toshav or sachir is because there's a havamina to think that maybe a ger toshav because he's somewhat attached to the Jewish people by settling in the land, or maybe a sachir who's like, I don't know, part of your household temporarily. I don't know what the havamina is, but halachically it's any goy. You know, you're not allowed to feed it to. I don't know why he does. I don't know why he mentions that up there also. Yeah, so that's an outstanding question. Okay. So what we started to do last time, which I want to do this time, and I don't know how far we're going to get, is I want to paint a portrait of what a meshumad la'avodah zarah is. So the Rambam talks about this in a lot of places in the Mishneh Torah, and I was hurriedly in between packing trying to find all of the places. I don't think I succeeded. I think there are two more at least, but let's just look at them really quickly and just paint a portrait here. Okay, some of them are more definitional, if that's a word. Some are more like just like referencing applications. Okay, so starting off, this one I've already written down in my sources here, and we read this last time. First place he mentioned, oh no, we didn't do this last time. This is in Hilchos Avodah Zarah 2:4, and just to appreciate where this is in Avodah Zarah, okay, perek aleph of Avodah Zarah is going through the history of Avodah Zarah. The first halachos in perek sheni are the ikar avodah zarah, and then al tifnu and los asur achrei levavchem achrei einechem. Okay, And then this is the very next mitzvah. So this is even before we get to the issur to worship avodah zarah. Okay, this is all the halachos governing our like relationship to avodah zarah. So he says, Rambam says in 2:4, mitzvahs avodah zarah keneged kol ha-mitzvos kulan hi. The mitzvah of avodah zarah is equal to, opposite, corresponds to all of the mitzvos. Shnemar, as it says, v'chi sishku v'lo sasu, is kol ha-mitzvos. So this is in the section of korbanos on I think chataos maybe. V'chi sishku, if you err, v'lo sasu is kol mitzvos, and you don't do all of the mitzvos. So the question is, what do you mean you err and you don't do all the mitzvos? Like, whoops, I accidentally ate nevela, ate treifa, like did all the So it can't mean like a mice, like can't mean doing all of the avera. So what must it mean? It must mean one avera that is connected all of them. So Umipia Shmuel Lamdu, from the Torah Shebal Peh, we learn Sheba Avodah Zarah HaKas of Medabber, that this is talking about Avodah Zarah.
Right, is it clarified?
Yeah.
You say that you did one mitzvah and that you all mitzvah. It's like when you one issue that you violated every single mitzvah. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, let me actually, first of all, let me look up the thing. I was paraphrasing Chazal, but I just want to look it up and make sure that I am quoting it correctly. Bamidbar 15:3. No, 15:22. 15. Oh, sorry, 22. So I think Rashi brings it down. Avodah zarah haisa bichlal kol mitzvos shetzibur mevin alav par. V'harei kasuv motzia min haklal lidon b'par laola usir. Wait, that's not the one I wanted. Oh yeah. V'chisishku ba'avodah zarah hakasuv medaber o eno ela ba'achas mikol mitzvos. So is this talking about avodah zarah, or is it talking about one of the mitzvos? Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, "Is kol hamitzvos ha'ele mitzvah achas shehi kichol hamitzvos." One mitzvah that is corresponding to all the mitzvos. Maha over al kol hamitzvos kulan perek ol umefir bris umugale panim. Just as someone who violates all the mitzvos is casting off the yoke of heaven and nullifying the covenant, and however you want to translate mugale panim, showing faces. Af mitzvazo perek ba ol umefir bris umugale panim. Bezozo zo avodah zarah. So I don't know what. I mean, this is a whole question about how can you say that all of the mitzvos are connected to avodah zarah or like corresponding to them. Is that the question you're asking? Like, how is that equal to all the other mitzvos?
Yeah, but I guess I'm clarifying. It doesn't sound like they're saying that, like, in terms of whenever I'm hanging on mitzvah scale, there is that they're connected to each other. It's more that the attitude you have, that you would have to violate every single mitzvah in the Torah. It's the same attitude you have when you avodah zarah.
That's definitely how Rashi seems to be saying it. Yeah, in terms
not
of
that like equal and like some scale that God has.
So I'm not sure if I actually don't know. I think that's a question that might become clear when we go through these sources. When you see the way that the Rambam talks about avodah zarah, let's hold off on that question for a second and just paint a fuller picture here. So going back to the Rambam, okay, so that's the source of it, that avodah zarah equals all the other mitzvos. Okay, halamarta, you learn from here shekol hamodeh ba'avodah zarah kofir b'chol Torah kula. Okay, big deal here. So anyone who I would translate moda here. I mean, moda usually translated as admits, but I would say who affirms or who acknowledges the validity of avodah zarah. This is moda, not in terms of giving hodah. This is moda and kofir, affirming or denying. So if you affirm avodah zarah, you have denied all of the Torah, all of the Nevi'im, and everything that was commanded by the Nevi'im from Adam until the end of the world. So this is why I was hesitant to say that, like Rashi does seem to be saying that when you do avodah zarah, it is equal to nullifying the bris and casting off the yoke and megale panim b'Torah. Rambam seems to put it more in terms of like a statement you're making or what you're revealing about yourself in terms of your ideas, because he puts it in terms of moda and kofir, and I don't know why it's not enough to say kofir b'chol Torah, but you're also kofir in all the Nevi'im and everything the Nevi'im commanded from Adam until the end of the world. I don't even know what that is. I mean, does the Rambam even hold that Adam was a Navi? I mean, I don't even know. I mean, psukim say God talked to Adam, but like it's just weird to like, saying from Moshe Rabbeinu and onward I get, but like Adam, I mean, it's just weird. Then he says, anyone who denies avodah zarah affirms the entire Torah. So that's also very interesting, right? Like what does that mean? And then vihi ikar kol hamitzvos kulan, and it is the root of all the mitzvos. So that's what I mean by this is like a more nuanced, complicated thing, and there's going to be even more than that. We'll see in this next halacha and then in Shabbos particularly. Okay, but that's the first move here. Okay. Then we get, so that's more in terms of evaluating what the mitzvah of avodah zarah is vis-a-vis the rest of Torah. Okay, is it's equal to the rest of the Torah in that if you deny avodah zarah, you're affirming the Torah. If you deny if you affirm avodah zarah, you're denying the entire Torah. Okay, then he says the halakhic statement: Yisrael she'avad avodah zarah harihu kigoy l'chol davar. A Jew who worships avodah zarah, he is like a goy for everything. Now, when he says he's like a goy for everything, he doesn't actually mean for everything. He means for everything in terms of any mitzvah that like pertains to a Yisrael. Okay, so like returning lost objects and like v'havta l'recha kamocha and all that stuff. What he does not mean is he doesn't mean that you lose your status as a Jew. Like, let's say you have a woman a Jewish woman who gives birth to a kid, so the kid is Jewish. Now, let's say she worships avodah zarah, and then she gives birth to another kid. We don't mean that the kid is not Jewish. Okay, we mean in terms of like we don't treat the ovid avodah zarah as a Yisrael. We treat them like a goy. And he says, and it's not even considered like a Jew who transgresses the most severe avera, which is chayav skila. In other words, when you have let's say you have a Jew who violates something that's chayav skila, right? Like one of the arayos that's chayav skila. So we treat you like a Jew. All of the halachos of a Jew are noheg with that person, and you get the death penalty. Here, it's beyond that. We don't even treat you like a Jew. Meshumad avodah zarah, and someone, now here's our category, someone who is an apostate to avodah zarah, who meshumad l'chol Torah kula. He is considered an apostate to the entire Torah. Okay, which he's going to elaborate on in the next couple halachos. But then one more category, okay, and this is something that is not directly related, but kind of. I mean, the Rambam puts it in a different paragraph here. Okay, the editors put it in the no. Hold on. No. Okay, I got it backwards. Does the Rambam put it in the same paragraph? Looks like it. I just want to double check, make sure I'm not reading this wrong. 2:5. No, the Rambam puts it in a different paragraph. Okay, so too the heretics in Israel. Now remember, whenever the Rambam uses the word heretic, he uses it in two ways or three ways. Okay, one is a generic term for anyone who denies one of the ikarim. Second is one who specifically denies ideas about God, and the third one is someone who is a leader of a breakaway movement that is heretical. Okay, so here he's talking about the third one. He says, Yisrael, people who are heretics in Israel, meaning like leaders of heretical movements. You'll see why I'm saying that in a second. Is not treated like a Jew for anything. We do not accept them in tshuva la'olam, forever. Shneimar, as it says, Kol ba'eha lo yeshuvun v'lo yasigu orkos chaim. It says in Mishlei, those who come to her will not return. They will not attain the paths of life. Okay, and he doesn't spell out what he means there, but he'll spell it out in another perek that we're going to see in a second. So who are these minim? Haminim, these heretics, heim hatarim achar machshavos libam besichlus. These are the people who stray after the thoughts of their heart in folly, but devarim shamarnu, in the matters that we have said, meaning the avodah zarah or denying the ikarim, ad shenimsu ovrim al gufe Torah lahachis, to the point where they transgress the corpus of Torah to anger God, like rebelliously, b'sha'at nefesh b'yad, with a brazen spirit and with a raised hand. V'omrim, and they say she'ein bazeh avon. They say that there's no sin in this. V'asur l'sapir imahen v'l'hashiv lehem tshuva klal. It's asur to converse with them or to arrange any sort of disputation with them at all. Shneimar, as it says, al tikrav el pesach be'sad, don't come close to the entrance of her door, of her house. U'machshavas hamin l'avodah zarah, and the machshava of these people is for avodah zarah. Okay, whatever that means. So just to give it a historical example of this, okay. compare the founders of Reform Judaism or the first Reform Jews with Reform Jews of today. Okay, Reform Jews of today are not like this. Reform Jews of today are tinuk shenishba. They're raised without real knowledge of what Judaism is. They might be deniers of ikarim, but you don't put them in this category. In contrast, the people who founded Reform Judaism, let's say they had the treifa banquet, right, where they dafka met and they served lobster and pork to say that this is not a sin. They were doing it brazenly. They made it, I don't know if it was usher or like it was just a protest that you davka don't wear a yarmulke because yarmulke signifies fear of God. That's like the real deal, meaning that we're talking about here. Or similarly, like Tzadok and Baisos, who started the Tzukim and the Baisusim, they and their initial followers were like this. But today's Karaites, I mean, however few they are not in this category. At least I don't think. Yeah, Isaac?
Okay, so first off, this is someone who's like, so it's not just like a leader, it's anyone who's like making like a conscious decision that this is like what they
right, not just like, a leader, correct? Yeah. I was just using the leader as an example. Yeah,
it's someone who's consciously pursuing this as opposed to someone who's and also he says also the software it's also
to talk with them. I think
is that like any conversation like
I think I don't know if Lasaper has a specific connotation, but I think so. It is a little weird though, right? Because you would think Lasaper is like to tell stories with them, but I don't think that's what it means here.
How would you say to count that's also to count them?
Lispor.
Yeah, different vowel.
So.
Like it's a vowel?
Yeah, with a vav inside. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And it wouldn't be imahen.
And it wouldn't be imahen, right? Yeah, and that's also I think already covered by like certainly you don't count them for minyan. That's already included in the fact that they are like a goy. That you don't count them. So that is true. It's just not what it means here. Okay, let's complete the picture a little bit more. Okay, so this is what we read last time. So this is now in Hilchos Tשוba, we're in the context of Olam Haba. So he says, "Elu she'ein lahem chelik l'olam haba." Here are the people who don't have a portion in Olam Haba. Ela nichrasim v'ovdin. Rather, they are cut off and perish. V'nidonin al goda risham v'chatasam la'olam u'la'olam elamim, and they are judged on the severity of their wickedness and their sin forever and ever and ever. Okay, now that's the one thing that people try to say that the Rambam holds by Gehenom, because how could they be punished forever if there's no Gehenom? But again, my shita on that the Rambam does not hold by Gehenom as an afterlife, state in the afterlife. And what he means here is he states very clearly, kares means your soul ceases to exist. So the punishment is forever, meaning you get sentenced for forever by having your soul eternally cut off, as opposed to all of Klal Yisrael, who their soul continues to exist in Olam Haba, forever. Okay, so who are they? Yeah.
He's giving non-existence a status of punishment.
Yes, yeah, it's the ultimate punishment because you get no, if you're existing, that's some partaking of the good, goodness being existence. And if you don't have any existence, that's like the worst thing that can happen to you. Yeah, even though it's not boiling in eternal hellfire, like the Christians like.
Yeah, I'd rather not exist than boiling.
Yeah, so that's the I think someone asked that to Rebbe once. He said they said, oh, it doesn't seem so bad to not exist, and I think Rebbe's answer was the reason why is because we evaluate the severity of a punishment in our minds and our imaginations by imagining like the experience, how you feel, right? So that's why like other religions talk up hellfire and stuff like that. But he was saying that the person who truly appreciated like the good and that the good is existence would realize that lacking existence would be the ultimate like loss, even though it doesn't like lend itself to the imagination that way. Yeah. Okay, so who are they? We're not going to read all of them. I just want to read the list though, so you can see where they come up. So the minim is the technical definition of people who deny one of the first 5 ikarim. Apikorsim, that's people who deny the next 3 ikarim. Kofrim b'Torah, those are people who deny the ikarim about Torah, or machish the bali masora. Kofrim b'tchias amesim, people who deny tchias amesim. Oh, sorry, apikorsim is also people who deny I said I wasn't going to say it, but this is important. Okay, minim are people who say there is no God, or that God exists but he's 2 or more, or that there is a God but he has he's physical or has an image. or that God is not eternal, or that there's someone else who can serve as an intermediary. Apikorsim are the people who deny nevuah, or who deny nevuas Moshe, or who deny God's knowledge of human actions. Kofim b'Torah are people who deny Torah b'Ksav, Torah b'al Peh, or say that the Torah was exchanged, that God made a New Testament or something like that. Kofrim b'Tchias Amesim is what it sounds like. Kofrim b'Bias HaGoel, people who deny Mashiach. Mishumadim, which we'll read the translation in a definition in a second. Machatiyeh harabim, those who cause the masses to sin. Porshim midarchei tzibur, people who remove themselves from Jewish society and don't do mitzvahs with them and don't identify with them. Ose averos biad ramah b'farhesia kihoyakim, those people who do sins brazenly in public, like to demonstrate. Mosrim, people who turn Jews over to the non-Jewish authorities. Again, that's not talking about the shilas nowadays about are you allowed to call the cops on someone? Okay, this is like back then when turning the Jews into the authorities would be like a death sentence. All right. People who cast fear into the congregation, not for the sake of heaven. Okay, certain like intimidating, like bullying leader tactics. Shofchei damim, people who shed blood. Bali lashon hara, people who are lashon hara addicts. And then moshech orla, so people who reverse their bris milah. Okay, that's a literal like reverse their bris milah. Okay, so all those people don't, they get karas and they don't have olam haba. But what we're interested in is the mushumadim. Yeah, Isaac?
It was all good until the second to last one.
Yeah, I don't think you're a bal lashon hara because you don't sit when you do it. Right? He says you sit and speak lashon hara all day long. So you just got to keep walking around. No, I'm just kidding. No, he says bal lashon hara. I use the term lashon hara addict because everyone speaks lashon hara. I'm not proud of it, but like it's very hard to not speak lashon hara. But these are people who that is their chief occupation. They're professionals. They have a card. Okay, mishumadim. Here is the definition. So this we read last time, but we read it really fast. So I just want to read it again. Shnaim hina mishumadim. There are two types of apostates. Okay, meshumad la'avera achas, someone who's an apostate for one avera. Hamashumad l'chol Torah kula, someone who's an apostate for the entire Torah. Okay, hamashumad la'avera achas, someone who's an apostate for one avera. This is a person who has a chazaka. He's made a chazaka for himself, a repeated, status quo, to do that avera intentionally, and is publicized in it and has made it a habit. Afilu haisa min hakalos, even if it's one of the light averos, meaning the ones that are not chayav kares or misa. Kagon, for example, shehuchzak tamid lilbosh shatnez. Like he has a chazaka that he always wears shatnez or he always shaves his peah. V'nimsa, and consequently, ki'ilu batla mitzvah zomin ha'olam etzlo. It's like this mitzvah is negated from existence to him. Harizet meshumad la'oso davar. So he's considered a meshumad for that thing. V'hu shiase lahachis. That's if he does it to anger God. Okay, so this is like he holds by the rest of Torah, by saying that one avera, like I'm gonna violate it, no problem. Take that, it's no problem. Take that, God, whatever. I don't know what he says. Okay, so it's kind of a rare personality, right? I mean, it's like I'm trying to think if there's a contemporary example of this that we're familiar with.
A spiteful person,
but it's for one avera. Everything else he keeps.
I'm guessing, like maybe if like someone has a particular issue with a let's say a specific halacha, and so they just like deny that it could be like part of the corpus of Torah because they find it so problematic.
Right, but would that be? I mean, it depends on how they do it, right? If it's
why is that hard?
Why is that what?
Like, I mean, what about say the law of the more feminist groups?
So that could be that. Sorry, I didn't see your hand because you were below my Zoom screen. So just to differentiate here, there's a mumar or mushumad l'te'avon where you do it out of desire, and then there's one where you do it lahachi. So I do think that Yosef is on the right track, that if you're doing it like as a statement, that like I get. Yeah, I mean it's
okay. So is that like it's kind of like a gay pride like parade? Is that similar
So-
kind of thing?
See, that's why I was going to go to that example, but I think that is, first of all, pride parade wouldn't be the thing. This is like if you actually are doing the avera, and it has to be lahachis. And I think that's the hard quality here is that I think
have
a
an
lot
example.
of people do averos for just 1 second. A lot of people do averos for out of desire, and then they rationalize it. But to do it rebelliously is I don't know. Yeah, what's your example, Isaac?
Yeah, so it's in like a similar camp. It's cross-dressing. So if someone like cross-dresses as like a public statement about it, not because they feel that they want to,
Right.
but because they want to
Yeah,
like,
that could be in the category. Yeah. Or here's a dumb example, but I'm only thinking of it because we're in Hilchos Korban Pesach, So it's like a whole thing with like, can you be a Jewish vegetarian, right? So what was that?
Sorry, then yeah, go ahead. I'll say it after.
So a lot of things that would seem to require eating meat, like you don't really have to, like there are ways around it. Let's say like, mitzvah for men to eat meat on Yom Tov, but that's for Simcha. If you don't like meat, then I've heard they don't have to do it, right? But if we had the Korban Pesach, then even if you're vegetarian, you would have to eat a kazayis of the Korban Pesach. You would have to, right? And if you were to say like, no, I refuse to do it, like it's inhumane, right? That would be like lahachis, and it'd be just for that one avera. Yeah, because what were you gonna say?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, that's the second question I'm going to follow up with then on that. But first, I was going to say, I feel like it's easy for us to come up with examples of this because I can say, yeah, someone who murders to make a statement about murdering. But like, I guess, but just as far as I don't really feel like almost anybody today is like this. I can't even think of like a real reality of a real group that does things just. Is lechachis? What does that mean? Does that mean means just
it literally means to provoke or to anger, and it's talking about provoking or angering God.
Right. So I feel like today almost anyone who does anything is because they've at least rationalized that they don't believe in
right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even believe that there's anything to provoke in the first place.
Right. Yeah. I think that's
someone who's it's definitely a rare case, but someone who's keeping all the rest of halacha.
Right.
So it's not just that they've rationalized that like Torah is not true or something.
Right.
So
and also, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so that's why I think like my example of like cross-dressing to make a political statement or something like that, where because people might have an objection because someone has an objection to the specific mitzvah, then they violate that mitzvah because they're like, this can't be,
See,
even
that's
though
what I'm in doubt about. That's what I'm in
Yeah,
doubt
I don't
about.
even.
If someone says that I refuse to believe that this mitzvah is what God actually intends,
Right.
I don't know if that's lahachis.
Yeah. I don't think so. Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
why I'm confused about your example about the Korban Pesach. Is that because you're saying because they can't dispute that it's derisive? It's like so obvious that it's in there that like they clearly are having to agree that it's a mitzvah. They're just for
Right.
sure
It'd be like
doing
if the person said like God, I know you want me to kill to slaughter the Pesach and eat it, but I'm not going to do it. Like I cannot bring myself to like harm an animal. Again, it is hard to imagine someone doing that these days because I agree with you. They're either going to rationalize that this is really what the Torah holds, or they're going to like
right.
They're not going to do it to provoke God. It's hard mentality to really do. I almost feel like it's in the category of, we have a hard time relating to how the primitive zarah related to the temptation to worship idols. I feel like the temptation to do things to provoke God is like in that category. I feel like we don't really like have that.
Yeah, actually, I think there's something that is a good parallel, which is like I think doing something as a political statement is something that we see nowadays. Where
it's an analogy, but I don't know if it's lahachis.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I think like in a society where like this is what the society where like in an actual like functioning Torah society where the like authority figure is Hashem.
And
the way that like feels more real to people, not just like
Not just like, oh, this is the religion that they're keeping,
Right.
You know, and people might like.
That's a good analogy. Nowadays, people's
yeah.
authority is society, but if you replace that with Hashem, then the same emotion that people have when they do something to make a political statement would be against Hashem. That's a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yosef?
Are you saying that people only did avodah zarah to lahachis Hashem?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
When I said avodah zarah earlier, I was saying, we can relate to, for example, temptation to eat food and temptation to commit, to like sexual temptation. We can't relate, I don't think, to I have to bow down to the statue, like I must, And I think like if you look at the way like throughout Tanakh, I mean, it was a huge taiva. I mean, the closest you have to this now is superstitious fears, but like as a taiva, we don't have that. And what I was saying is just like we can't relate to that, it's hard for us to relate to someone doing something to say, take that, God, like I'm doing this to anger God.
Okay, fine. So,
yeah.
Never mind.
So, but here's the thing. This guy or girl is not in our category for Korban Pesach. Okay, Korban Pesach, it's not usher to feed the Korban Pesach to a meshumad la'avera achas. It's usher to feed it to a meshumad l'chol Torah. So that's the second category. Is, the first guy is going to lose their chelak in olam haba, right? Like, see ya, right? But the second guy is the one that falls under the Isser. Hamashumad l'chol Torah, someone who is an apostate to the entire Torah, kagon hachozer l'date hagoyim b'shah shegozrin shmad v'yidbak bahen. This is like someone who converts to the religions of the goyim at a time when they decree a persecution, v'yidbak bahen, and he clings to them. V'yomar, and he says, "Uma betzali l'hidav b'Yisrael shein shvalim v'nirdafim." What benefit is there to me? What profit, literally, for me to cling to Israel who are lowly and pursued? Tov lo shiyidbak be'elu shiyad and takifa. Better to cling to those people who have the upper hand. Harizet meshumad l'chol Torah kula. That person is considered a meshumad for the entire Torah. And I just have to qualify this in two ways. Way number one is in Pesach Sunday shiur before Purim. He quoted from the Rambam's Igeres Hashmad, the letter of persecutions, where a guy was saying that Jews who converted out of pressure, under the penalty of death, the guy was basically saying to like write them off, and the Rambam defended them and said, even though it's usher to do that, then we don't hold that those people are like that we write them off, So I've never read the Igeres Hashmad in its entirety, so I don't know how the Rambam reconciles that with this.
What does that mean, write them off? As in like not count them as
like,
Jews? Or...
Yeah, the guy said like these people are going to be punished forever, and like we don't accept them in teshuvah, and like they're
they're punished forever. Like they're gonna
yeah.
Their souls are gonna cease to exist, kind of thing.
Yeah, like just totally like we don't welcome them back.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So the Rambam, it's not, the Rambam's actual position is not as severe as it seems here. And then the second thing I want to point out, which I think is a fair diuk, is he does not say someone who converts to avodah zarah. He says someone who converts to the religions of the goyim. Okay, so the big nafkamina is Islam, right? Because Islam is not avodah zarah according to the Rambam, but it would seemingly apply here if you convert to Islam and say like, oh, I don't want to associate with Jews because I want to be with the people who are powerful. That would be a meshumad l'chol Torah, seemingly. Okay, so that's another big category, another big example. Okay, let's go for 12 more minutes. Okay, let's skip. Is this the one in Eruvin or Shabbos? Oh, this is the one in. Okay, this is one in Birkas Kohanim. Okay, Tefillah Birkas Kohanim. No, where is this? Oh no, this is also in avodah zarah. Okay, let's skip. Do we need to do this one? Let's skip this one. So this is one where this is in Birkas Kohanim. So this is in Birkas Kohanim 15. So he says 6 things prevent a person from doing Birkas Kohanim, right? So halashon, language, mumin, blemishes, avera, this is the one we're going to do, shanim, years, hayayin, wine, and then tumas hayadayim. Okay, so these are things that prevent you from doing Birkas Kohanim. I mean, obviously you have to be a Kohen, but if you're a Kohen, you can't do it if you have these things. So what is avera? So he says, avera ketzad, Kohen shaharagas hanefesh, afilu bishkaga, afa pisha asa tshuva, lo yisa es kapav, shnemar yedechem damim maleu. So a Kohen who killed someone, even unintentionally, Even if he did tshuva, then he's not allowed to do birkas kohanim because the pasuk in Yeshayahu says your hands are filled with blood. Uksiv, and it says when you raise your hands, I will turn my eyes from them. That's God talking. So that's that is disqualifies you from being a kohen. That seems to be a more particular thing about you're associated with bloodshed in your hands, and so when people like see you doing birkas kohanim, they're going to associate to that even if you did tshuva. The kohen she'avod avodah zarah, interestingly, bein ba'ones bein b'shogeg b'shgaga, the kohen who worshipped avodah zarah even under coercion, or if he did it unintentionally, afal pisha asa tshuva eno noses kavav la'olam, he cannot do birkas kohanim forever. Shneimar, as it says, lo yalu kohani habamos, the kohanim of altars will not ascend. So that's again presumably because of association. Because look, if you do avodah zarah ba'ones, you're not punished for that. Like if you do it, someone holds a gun to your head and says, worship avodah zarah or I'll kill you, you're chayav to give up your life. But if you worship avodah zarah, you don't get punished by basing because it's considered to be under ones. So this is purely because of the association to the person.
Wait.
Yeah.
I'm confused. I feel like I heard two different things just now. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I'll say it again. So if someone holds a gun to your head and says, worship avodah zarah or I'll kill you, halachically, you have to give up your life and be killed rather than worshipped. Okay. However, if you cave to the pressure and you worship, halacha realizes that you were under duress and does not hold you responsible, meaning you don't get punished by based in, and like it's considered to be under coercion. So
weird.
And Rav Pesach talked about that in his Sunday shiur also. Again, I mean, I know every Sunday shiur from Rav Pesach is amazing. That Sunday shiur, like everyone, I guess
it kind of makes sense because in a certain way it's like it's not a big accomplishment if you give up your life for avodah zarah if the alternative is you get killed anyway because you didn't give up your life. Like you're kind of like you have to put it in the person's choice in a certain degree,
right?
For it to be like a mitzvah.
Yeah. Halacha kicks in even in situations that after the fact are duress. Ubracha ka'avoda, and bracha is compared to avoda, which is what the pasuk was talking about. Shneimar, it says lasharso ulevarak bishmo, because the pasuk associates them. What happened? Why is this? Okay. V'chein kohen shenishtamid lavodah zarah. Same thing with the kohen who became a meshumad for avodah zarah. Alpha pi shechazar bo, even though he retracted, eno nos es kavav l'olam, he cannot do birkas kohanim forever. Even though he not retracted, even though he did tshuva, he cannot do birkas kohanim forever. Ushar averos ein monim, but the rest of the averos don't prevent you. Okay, another one, Shabbos. Okay, Hashabbos v'avodah zarah. This is the second best halacha in Hilchos Shabbos. Shabbos and avodah zarah, kol achas mishtain shekula keneged shar kol mitzvos Torah. Both of them are equal to all the other mitzvos of the Torah. Shabbos hi ha'os shebein hakadosh baruch hu u'beinenu. Shabbos is the sign between God and us forever. Lefikach, therefore, kol ha'over al shar hamitzvos. Anyone who violates the other mitzvos, harihu bichlal rishei Yisrael. He's included in the Jewish wicked people. Aval ha'machal Shabbos b'far hesia. Wait a minute. He doesn't use the phrase meshumad l'avodah zarah. Okay, fine. We're already here. Someone who transgresses, who desecrates Shabbos publicly, harihu ke'oved avodah zarah. That person is like one who does avodah zarah. Ushneim kegoyim l'chol divreim, and all of them are treated like, both of them are treated like goyim. I guess I accidentally went to this halacha. Doesn't mention a meshumad. Okay, let's skip the Eruvin one. Okay, you know what? Executive decision. Let's finish the perek. Okay, there's more, but let's finish the perek here. Okay, so that is the meshumad l'avodah zarah. And you see just from what we've read, I mean, we didn't do all of them, but like it is a person who basically is considered to be a goy and completely rejecting avodas Hashem, and I mean, it's almost worse than it is in a sense worse than a goy or a ger toshav, and the fact that he's Yisrael doesn't save him. And that's why I think the pasuk says he's a ben nechar. It's like he's, associating himself with like he's a son of a foreign god, Okay. Arel she'achal kazayis mi bazar Pesach, an uncircumcised person who ate from the meat of the Pesach loke gets malchus. Shneamar v'chol arel lo yochabo. Any uncircumcised person may not eat from it. Bo hu she'eno ochel. He may not eat from it. About ochel hu matzah umar, but he can eat from matzah and marer. Now I don't know why we have to have that special limud for matzah, for the arel, but we don't have that limud for a meshumad, avodah zarah, or a ger toshav, or a sachir. Right? We have to say specifically. You have to say you can eat from the matzah and mar. He says you also, it's also mutter for you to feed matzah and mar to a ger toshav or a sachir.
He might only apply time in the mitzvah of Mora.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
So
it's either asur or chayiv.
right. That's interesting. Yeah. That's a good point. Okay. Kishim shemilas banav avadav me'akeves also milishchot pesach. Oh, so this is an interesting one. We read this earlier. Just as the mila of a person's son and his servants prevents him from shechting the pesach. Okay, so that's if you wait, does he say this here? Yeah, he says look above in 5.5. Let me just quickly reread that halacha 5.5. Oh, we didn't read this one because we didn't do chapter 5. Oops, I went to the wrong sefer. 5, which is Kishem shemilas atzmum alkeves also milasos Pesach. Just if you are not circumcised, you cannot do the Pesach. Kach milas banav haktanim umilas kol avadav bein gedolim bein katanim me'alkeves also. So too, the circumcision of your minor children and the circumcision of your slaves, whether they're adults or minors, prevent you from doing it. Shneimar, it says himul lo kol zachar v'az yikrav laso. So circumcise all males, and then you may approach to do it. If you shechted the Pesach before you circumcise these guys, the Pesach is pasul. So that's a really interesting thing, that you not only do you have to be circumcised, but you also have to make sure all the males in your household are circumcised. And then our halacha jumps in. Just as the circumcision of one's children and servants prevents him from doing the Pesach, from shechting the Pesach, so too it prevents him from eating. Circumcise him and then he may eat. How so? Let's say you bought a slave after you shechted the Pesach, because your Pesach is kosher, but now you own a slave that's uncircumcised. Oshai lobain shalohi giazman olhimol ala achar shechitas Pesach. Or let's say you have a son that when you shechted the Pesach, your son wasn't chayiv in milah, but then he becomes of age, when it's time to eat it. Okay, it's asur to eat from the Pesach until you circumcise them. Side point here, by the way, which I haven't really thought about until this year. It's interesting that the role that milah plays in Pesach is so fundamental, and all the Jews in Mitzrayim had to get circumcised, to do it. And especially if you've listened to my shiur on the Sforno and his theory about which bris is the one that got us out of Mitzrayim, which has to do with the bris milah. It's very interesting that what was the one thing that almost got Moshe killed is he didn't do bris milah to his son. It's just, I don't know what to make of that. But yeah. Okay, last halacha.
What do you mean you don't know what to make of it? Like,
it's the whole incident is very strange in general, right? Like Moshe's going out, and then it's God, an angel of God encounters him and wanted to kill him, and then Tzipporah flies in, does a pretty rough milah, and then throws the foreskin at Moshe's feet, saying that you're a chasan damim, right? The whole thing is very hard to understand, but I'm saying of all the mitzvos that Moshe Rabbeinu could have neglected that would have gotten him in trouble. It's funny, it's the one mitzvah that is the most important thing next to Korban Pesach. And it's also one of the mitzvahs that you're chayiv kares for, Moshe wouldn't be chayiv kares for not doing it because he himself was circumcised. But I don't know, it's like a major, milah is a major player in the events of Pesach and in the Jewish people and in the halachic system. So not only is the event perplexing, it's just perplexing how what was Moshe thinking, basically? And I know people explain stuff it was he thought that what's the phrase? Osig mitzvah, patur min mitzvah. That he was going on his way to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, so he's patur from milah, or he was afraid that his son would be in danger if it was in the midbar. There are answers like that, but I feel like there's something else going on there. Okay, let's do the last halakha, then I got to stop for today. The Ketzad Yihye Haben Roy La Mila Achar Shchitas Pesach. How could the son be fit for Mila after Shchitas Pesach? Lo Yeh Roy Kon Shchita, and not be ready before Shchita, right? Because it's the same day. Kugon Shechalatsu Chama. It's like the sun Chalitzad. What does that mean? Shenechlatz mi machala mi milove b'chom gavoa. Ladas aposkim biamenu 38 degrees v'yoser. Let's cheat. Let's look at chabad.org because I don't have time to figure this out by looking in the dictionary here.
Yeah, maybe it's an extremely hot day, so it will be dangerous.
That's what I was
for
thinking,
it.
right? Yeah, but
Yeah.
it sounds like though it might be degrees not from heat. It might be degrees from angle of the sun.
It's at 30 degrees Celsius.
Oh, did it? Okay, I didn't see.
There's a C.
What is implied? Sorry. For example, he had a fever, and 7 full days are needed from the time at which he became healed. His eye hurt severely, and he was healed after the slaughter of the Pesach sacrifice. That's like the thing that makes you say to your kid, like, you should have gone before, before we left. I know it has nothing to do with it, but like it's like the timing worked out perfectly to get into this like bad situation. Yeah. So what was this? Yeah. Kagon shechalatzu tu chama shetzarech shivas yamim ye'es le'es miyom havra'aso. Ukagon shekava eno v'nir peis achar shchita, or like his eye hurt and he was healed after shchita, right? Because you're not allowed to do mila if he's sick. So if his eye heals, now you can do mila. O shaya tumtum v'nikra achar shchita pesach v'nimsa zachar, right? Or he was a tumtum, which means that his he had the flesh covering his genitals and it tore, and surprise, it's a boy. But you find out like after the shchitas Pesach, and now you realize you're chayav in mila for him. Yeah. Okay, so I just want to point out before we stop for today, I mean, Chizkiyahu mentioned earlier that like this is interesting, and we talked about like why we learn these halachos, and one of the reasons is that like this does say certain things about Jewish philosophy that are relevant nowadays, even though we don't practically do the Korban Pesach. And so I feel like there's a lot of Tamei Mitzvos stuff to learn from what we just read, but unfortunately we don't have time today. Plan tomorrow, again, assuming that I make my flight and like I'm in Seattle tomorrow without any problems and we have internet, is let's try to finish the last perek tomorrow, even if that means skipping certain halachos. Okay, just to like get the main parts of the perek of the last perek of Korban Pesach, and then that'll be it until after Pesach break is over. Okay, have a good day. Talk to you later.
Nice.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yep.